Okay, so before we start, just a quick bookkeeping announcement. And I'm just putting this in the recording in case people are listening who usually show up here. So next week, Thursday should be good. Okay. But then I am on vacation and the goal is to be off the grid at a cabin. So Friday the 22nd, no shiur. Thursday the 28th, no shiur, and then Friday the 29th, no shiur. And then we'll resume for a little bit more, and then we'll play by ear after that. So that is the upcoming plan. Okay, so we are on to a new chapter of Pirkei Avos, chapter 4. And this is somewhat of a famous one. So we're going to be on this for a while, okay? Because there's 4 clauses, and we might even be on multiple clauses or on a clause for more than one session. So Ben Zoma Omer. So Ben Zoma says, Eizehu Chacham. Now, I've only heard this translated as "who is wise," and that's how I translate it. But I think specifically or precisely, Eizehu means which one, which is a wise man. Okay, which I don't know if maybe it just means like who is wise, but just to translate precisely, like because Eze means which, and Eizehu means like which one. So which is a wise man? Halom mikol adam, one who learns from everyone, every person. Shnemer, as it says in Tehillim 1:19-99. Mikol melamdai hiskalti ki edosecha sichali. From all my teachers, I gained intelligence. For your testimonies with capital Y are a conversation to me. Okay. We'll read the whole thing, even though we're going to only focus on the first one tonight. Eizehu gibor, which one is a strong man? Hakovesh as yitro, one who conquers his inclination. Shneimar, as it says, Tov erech mi gibor umosha barucha milocha ir. That's from Mishlei 16:32. Better one who is slow to anger. One who's slow to anger is better than a strong man, and one who rules his spirit is better than one who captures a city. Okay, Eizehu Ashir, which is a wealthy man, or which person is wealthy? Hasamech b'chalko, one who's happy with his portion or content with his portion. Shnamar, as it says, Yagia kapecha kisochel ashracha v'tov lach. Through the exertion of your hands, you will eat. You are happy and it is good for you. And then the drasha is ashracha ba'olam hazeh v'tov lach la'olam haba. It is you are happy in this world and it is good for you in the world to come. Last one, Eizehu Mechubad, who is honored, or which is honored? Which is honored? Hamachabed es one who honors people. Shneimar, as it says, Ki machabdai echabed uboza yikalu. That's from Shmuel Aleph 2:30. For those who honor me, capital M, I will honor, and those who disparage me, I will be made light of. Okay, so let's do. I'm actually just going to copy and paste this into the chat so you can look at it because that's a lot of text there. So here is the Hebrew, and got all messed up. Okay, whatever. And here is the English. Okay, so let's do what we usually do for multi-claused mishnayos. Let's ask questions focusing on our clause, and then questions that are on the whole thing, like the entity as a whole, those are also acceptable. But let's not get into the details on the other 3 clauses for tonight. So what are the questions here? And you could just talk with a few people. You don't need to raise your hand if it's easier.
I guess the first one who learns from every person is what it says, but then the pasuk says you learn just from teachers.
Yeah.
So
okay. Right. Okay. Right. So that's I think because I only hear the first part of this quoted, I never really saw that question before. So the question is,
right,
how does the pasuk from Tehillim support this this definition of Chacham? Okay. To the contrary, the definition of Chacham says one who learns from everyone, whereas the pasuk in Tehillim seems to say to only speak about learning from one's teachers. Yeah.
And then a sub question on that.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to learn from, let's say it's more in line with what the pasuk's saying, how we understand it.
Yeah.
What's the havamina? Like you learn from your teacher. Like it's good
right.
to learn from teachers, right? And you could say, okay, you're learning from different teachers, but like Torah is Torah. So what's like the actual? What are we actually learning?
So just to clarify, you're saying that question on the pasuk itself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, and then, and if the pasuk means that you're supposed that he learned from his teachers, that's obvious, right? What is the hava mina of the pasuk? Okay, which might actually be the road to answering your question, but the question definitely needs to be asked. All right, what
I guess
else?
also, what does he mean by a chacham? Like the definition, I guess,
Right.
question.
Okay, so what, I guess, what concept of chacham is he teaching us? Yeah, and chacham, as we know, is a very multi definitional term. Like you have all the way from basic definition, meaning someone who has knowledge, to like you have by the artisans who built the things in the Mishkan and the Big Kahuna, kol chacham lev, someone who like has a certain skill. Chacham can mean cunning. So like what kind of what is the definition of chacham here?
Another question could be like why the word Adam is specifically used, or like who is an Adam? I know there are like different words to
Okay,
like that mean that.
Okay, good. So what actually I'm gonna just tack this on first. Let me just first tack this on to Lauren's question just to explain here. Like, what is a chacham as defined by Lomed Mikol Adam? Okay, and then we have Fega's question, which is within the within the formulation of that definition, who is the Adam and here, and why is he referred to by that term? Yeah.
I have another question that's kind of more related to Ben Zoma's personality and this, like as in, so the Gemara says that there were 4 people who went into Gan Eden, and
it's Pardes.
Oh, Pardes, thank you. Yeah. And Ben Zoma was the one who went insane.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So I was just like, I feel like there's a contrast there between what he's saying. Like I was confused by how the two are like work together.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. We have not really explored that approach in Pirkei Avos. It came up last time we had a Pirkei Avos share. I think actually I might not have quoted it. Give me 1 second here. Oh no, it did come up. We had what was the last one? 320. So we had Rabbi Eliezer ben Chisma, who said bird nests and nida openings are the principal laws, and then tekufos and gematrios, astronomical cycles and gematrios are desserts or appetizers. And I think it was the Rashbats who said, no, it was Sforno who said, that Elazar ben Chisma was someone who was so great in his wisdom in mathematics that they said that he could he knew how to estimate the number of drops in the sea. So you see there, like Sforno is basically like interpreting the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos in light of like the biographical data that we see in Shas about this person. The one who does this a lot is the Rashbats. The Rashbats often will begin his commentary by talking about who this person was based on what we know about them through in Shas, and then he'll like learn the statement in light of that. So Fega is referring to this Gemara in Chagiga, which I was actually just looking at before shiur started, just to make sure. I always forget. I know that I know what happened to Rabbi Kiva, and I know what happened to Elisha ben Avuya, but I always forget Ben Azai and Ben Zoma. So I need a good mnemonic. So if anyone has a good mnemonic for this, then let me know. So it says,
This isn't a mnemonic, but the way I remember is that in Russian, I speak Russian. Like suma is like sanity. So to say that somebody went insane is on pashol suma, and suma kind of sounds
that's
like
good.
Zoma.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I actually came up with one right before shiur that the shorish of Zayin Nun He means to stray. So like Zana sounds like Zoma, and like his mind strayed, so that's how I do it. But yeah, we'll see if it works, because so far I haven't remembered it. Okay, so I only have this in English in this here. Actually, let's read it in Hebrew. Let's look it up. 14b. Always good to see things inside. Shas. So this is in Chagiga because the second parak of Chagiga is the one that talks about, what we call like Kabbalah or Maser Merkav and Maser Breshis. And so this is the tale of the four who went into Pardes. So Tanu Rabbanan, Tanu Brisa, Arba'a Nichnesu LePardes. Four went into Pardes, and Rambam says Pardes means the study of metaphysics. But obviously there's different opinions about what Pardes is. Ve'eluhein, and here these are their names. Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher, Rabbi Akiva. So those are the four. Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher. Acher means the other, and that's code name for Elisha ben Avuya. And Rabbi Akiva. Amar lahem Rabbi Akiva. Okay, so this is a weird part. Rabbi Akiva said to them, Kishatem magim etzel avnei shayish tahor al tamru mayim mishum shnemar dover shkarim lo yichon leneged einai. So Rabbi Akiva told them, when you get to the where's the pillars of marble, the stones of pure marble, do not say water, water, because it was stated, one who speaks falsehood will not be established before my eyes. Okay, got it, Rabbi Akiva. I don't know what that means. Okay, then Ben Azai hitzit umes. Ben Azai glanced or gazed and died. Allah HaKasuv Omer, and regarding him, the pasuk in Tehillim says, Yachar be'enei Hashem hamav chasidav. We said it in Halal. Precious to Hashem, in the eyes of Hashem, is the death of his pious ones. Ben Zoma hitzis v'nifga. Ben Zoma glanced and went crazy, became demented. Rashi says Nifka is nitrofa dato, his mind got scrambled. The Alav Kasuvomer, regarding him, it says Dvash matasa echol dayaka pentisbana v'hekeso. If you found honey, eat what is enough for you, meaning don't eat more than that, lest you become sated and vomit it out. Acher kitit benetios. Acher uprooted the shoots, uprooted the small plants. Rabbi Akiva yatsa b'shalom. Rabbi Akiva exited in peace. So Fega's question is, I kind of forgot your question. What was the specific question in light of Ben Zoma?
I feel like the two, he went insane and he's talking about who's wise. And I feel like if he knows who's wise, then he's going to be able to prevent insanity. I don't know. I feel like the two things don't really work together.
Okay, yeah. So let's just ask this as a general question here. So Ben Zoma, actually, let me just read this. I'll put this in order here. So Ben Zoma is one of the four who went into Pardes. Okay, so that is Chagiga 14b, and he went insane. So what, if anything, are we to make about his advice in becoming a Chacham, given his severe misstep? Something like that. Yeah. Okay. What else?
I don't know if this is the same as my other question. I think it's in the same vein, but we usually look at Pirkei Avos as like talking to the chassid in training.
Yeah.
What I still don't get, like, why do we need this pasuk? Like, okay, you learn from everybody. Is this talking about like Achdut of the Jewish people?
Yeah.
Like it all seems obvious.
Okay, good. So so who is the intended audience of this Mishnah? And this Mishnah, if it is a chassid in training, then isn't this obvious? Yeah. Okay, that's good. I also want to go ahead.
Sorry, another question. So I have a different version of Pirkei Avos open in front of me, and it doesn't include the second half of the pasuk. It just ends at Mikol Melam Dahi Skalti.
Oh, okay, yeah. So okay. Two methodology points. Methodology point one is that oftentimes in Chazal and in the Rishonim, then they'll only quote half of the pasuk and they'll expect you to read the rest of it. Or sometimes they'll even expect you to read pasukim afterwards, like a whole section. So that's methodology point one. But the other methodology point, which I've talked about before, is if we look at the most accurate edition of Pirkei Avos, is the Kaufman manuscript. It also just has the first half. Mikol Melam Dahi Skalti. Yeah. So it is possible. Actually, it's possible I'm the one who quoted the whole thing, or I read. No. Yeah. So the version on Al Torah quotes the whole thing, but the Kaufman one doesn't. So, yeah. So I guess we'll pair that with a question of I'm going to just tack this onto the question here. So So how does the pasuk in Tehillim support the definition of Chacham? I'll say, okay, which part of the pasuk supports it? Sorry, pasuk supports it. And then, like, do we need the pasuk in context? Okay, to understand it. So I want to actually just show you the pasuk in context. Anyone know what the deal is with the Tehillim Kufiyot Tes?
Isn't it? It's like all about Torah, and it's the Aleph.
Yeah, so it's the Aleph.
structure.
So Kufiyot Tes is the longest parak in all of Tanakh, and it's the Aleph Beis, and it goes 8 letters for 8 psukim for each letter. So this is from I guess Mem. Okay, so I just translated it here. So the full block here, and my derech of approaching this parak of Tehillim, which I haven't like played out yet, is treating like each set of 8 as like its own unit. So it says, how much I have loved your Torah all day long. It is my conversation. Each of your commandments has made me wiser than my enemies, for it is ever with me. And then here's our pasuk. From all my teachers I became intelligent, for your testimonies are my conversation. From elders I acquired understanding, for your precepts I have guarded. From every evil path I restrained my feet, so that I might keep your word. I have not deviated from your judgments, for you have taught me. How sweet to my palate is your word, more than honey to my mouth. From your precepts I acquire understanding, therefore I hate every path of falsehood. Okay, so we're not going to figure it out right now, but that's the parak in context, or that's the pasuk in context.
I think that kind of nixes the question. I don't know if this is like going too far and we're not doing this yet, but we talk about elders here, the evil path, like we're learning from different sources. If we're not
Right.
just learning from the teachers, which
That's a good point.
then we could ask the question, why did they pick that pasuk over all the others? But
Okay, no, I'm going to add that to this, which is if so, what about all the other people? He says, I guess sources. He says he's learning from in the parak. Oh, sorry, in the cluster of psukim, in the other psukim. Yeah. Okay. I'm actually going to make the other question into a separate question. Okay, there we go. I also want to just put my question up here, which I said as an observation, but I'll put it as a question. What is the question of Eizehu? Okay. Like, first of all, is it asking who is or which is, and what is the difference? And then you could also ask, like, is this a definition, a description, a litmus test? Like, what is this? Like, what are we being told here? Told for each of these. Yeah.
Another question could be like, what does he mean by learning? There's different types of learning. So like, is there a
Right.
specific one or is there just general?
Okay, that's a great question. What is Chacham? Who's the Adam? Okay, and then what similarly, what type of limud is this talking about? There are lots of kinds of learning. Okay. Yeah. Like, is this referring to all of them or a specific kind? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the entire thing? Again, not the specifics, but just on the entire Mishnah that might guide our analysis here.
I guess, like, is there a unifying theme and why he's asking, like, for Chacham, Gibor, Ashir? Like,
Right.
what's his goal, I guess, in terms of asking? It's kind of related to what you said with Eizehu, but
Yeah.
how are they related in any way?
Why does Ben Zoma focus on these 4 characteristics? Okay, like what unifies them?
oh wait,
Yeah.
we don't have answers yet. Sorry, I had an idea.
Yeah, no, that's actually, you want, why don't you if you, yeah, I think we're good. I think that was the only question I was fishing for here.
Can I just build off of that one?
Yeah, sure.
I'm wondering if there's a hierarchy.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that is definitely possible. Yeah. Let me actually incorporate that into the question here, which is there an order or hierarchy? Okay, Vanessa, you wanted to comment on that?
I wanted to like sort of answer it, but I don't fully remember what I'm remembering.
Okay, no, I hope it's what I think it is. Yeah, go ahead.
It's when they were in when Moshe Rabbeinu needed to pick people for something, and I can't remember. And it was 4 qualities where they couldn't find anyone with 4 qualities, so they all just picked the wealthy people.
Oh, interesting.
Or isn't it these 4 qualities, or am I mixing up?
Okay, so are you thinking of when he's appointing judges?
Probably.
So the qualities there are
they different?
if this is what you're thinking of. I'm gonna go to the version in Devarim. It also is in Parshas Yisro, but
I was remembering Parshat Yisro, so I think
okay, so we'll go there then.
Whatever partial works, I think it's the same qualities. That's what I remember.
Go to Yisro, and it's in the very beginning. Oh yeah, here we go. The Ata Tekzeh Mikol Ha'am. This is Yisro advising him who to pick. You should select from all the people Anshe Chayil, men of Chayil, which I think is wealth. Okay, that's like the literal translation. Let's just show you here in the BDB dictionary. Says strength, efficiency, wealth, army. Okay, fine. Yirei Elokim, men who fear God. Anshe Emes, men of truth. Sone Batza, people who hate profit, Profit. And then you should appoint them over yourselves. And then I just do want to see if Devarim says the same qualities. Habu lechem anashim chachamim unvodim viduim l'shivtechem. Oh no, sorry. V'cha as rosh yeshivtechem anashim chachamim viduim. Yeah. Men who are wise and understanding and known to their tribes. I thought it said similar qualities also. Yeah, so not these qualities here. It does say chachamim, but not the other ones. Yeah.
Okay. Worth a shot.
Yeah, worth a shot, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so I guess anyone want to offer any answers to these questions before we start, or just even intuitions? Let me paste these in the chat.
I guess like a Havamina, maybe for the Mishnah, like to start with theirs, maybe if this is talking to a chassid, then you might think that you could only really learn from your teachers, but this is teaching you that you need to learn from everybody. But then I think then you really have the big problem with the pasuk, because that seems to be limiting it to teachers. No, but
I definitely think that is the most logical Havamina, regardless of who the audience is, but especially if the audience is someone who's a chassid. So the Havamina is you shouldn't learn from everybody, and the reason why a chassid wouldn't think he could learn from everybody is because you would think he was going to only learn from the best, or people who are superior to him, right? So then we have to figure out what the pasuk means.
And then if we're going with that, we looked at the pasuk inside, and it talked about learning from elders, learning from teachers, and learning from the dark path, or I forget the exact wording, but that would seem to corroborate it and not go against it as we first saw it.
Yeah. So it really seems to be more of a problem on the pasuk than the concept. I mean, I think that's the pasuk is the problematic thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go through some of Farshim here. Okay. I chose Rashi. We don't usually do Rashi. I've mentioned this before. Rashi on Pirkei Avos is a little wonky. It's unclear who wrote it because there are like 5 or 6 different versions. But I included this one because it seems to be the most simple explanation. So let's just get the simple one out of the way. So first of all, it gives us a little bit of factual information here. So one question which we didn't ask, which is not so important, is why is he called Ben Zoma? Why doesn't he have a first name? Okay. So the answer, Rashi says, Lefisha lo herichu yamim. Sorry. First he says Shimun ben Azai. Sorry, Shimun ben Zoma, V'Shimun ben Azai, V'Shimun hatemani. So there are 3 people. Lefisha lo herichu yamim, since they did not live a very long time, nikru al shem avihem. They were called by their father's names. Nusach acher. Ve'elu shlosha shelo nismechu. These are 3 who did not have smicha. They didn't get rabbinic ordination. Kedamrim Sanhedrin. Hayoshim lifnei chachamim Shimon ben Azai v'Shimon ben Zoma v'Shimon hatimani. So strange thing that they didn't live a long time and they didn't get smicha. So they're not called Rebbe and they're not called by their name. They're called like Zoma's son. I don't know how long they lived, but apparently Ben Zoma lived long enough to go into Pardes. So there's that. Okay. So then he says like this, Halomi mikol adam vafilu she'eno gadol mimenu b'chachma, even someone who's not greater than him in wisdom, holech v'lomed, he will go there and he will learn. V'dochak v'nichnas b'chol makom she'en b'nei Torah v'eno mizbayish, and he'll go and experience, like I tried to translate this, experience oppressive constraints. Dochak is like squeezing in, and he'll go into any place where there are people who are b'nei Torah, people who learn Torah, v'eno mizbayish, and he won't be embarrassed. And he quotes the pasuk, Mikol Melamdai, Kol mi sheba lelamdeni, hayisi maskil shomer ledavara v'lo boshti. Anyone who came to teach me, I would gain intelligence by listening to his words and not being ashamed. Okay, so I think he's definitely answering the main questions. So what is the quality here that is, revealed through the fact that he's like learning from everyone, as Rashi explains it? What would you say here?
Like humility. He's
Yeah,
able to like learn from everyone, not be like, oh, I'm smarter than this guy, I won't listen to what he says. Like he's willing to listen to all perspectives and grow.
exactly, right. So the question is like, what is the main idea? So it is he has humility and is not doesn't let his ego get in the way of pursuing Chachma. And I'm sure that's going to be an idea that's common to all the approaches that we take. Okay. Yeah. Any other things that we see here? What do we get? Do we get anything from the fact that he says he is dochak v'nichnas b'chol makom she'en b'nei Torah? He'll like squeeze his way into any place that are b'nei Torah there. That's like in other words, I get the part that he'll learn from people even who are inferior to him. That like clearly expresses what Vanessa was saying. But what's this thing about like squeezing himself into all the places with b'nei Torah? I don't even know what
Maybe
that means, by the way.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe he wants to like cover his bases, or like he's looking for all ideas, you know what I mean? Like he wants to learn all the different approaches, maybe. So anybody that's a B'nai Torah.
Yeah.
That's also, I'm finding interesting that he says Shein B'nai Torah. Like he's not going everywhere. It seems like Rashi's saying he's not going everywhere. He's going
Right.
physically where there's
That's a good point. So
B'nai
that's actually
Torah.
commenting on Fega's question, which is what type of Adam is he talking about? So it does not mean, that's actually a very good question, right? So I'm just gonna make this as a point here. So who is the Adam in Mikol Adam? So this is seemingly only B'nai Torah. Okay. Inferior, yes, but still B'nai Torah. Okay, so he's not going to everyone to learn. Like in other words, and if you think about it, like if you're talking about Torah knowledge, you're not going to go to the non-Jewish janitor to learn Torah knowledge. Like you're just not going to go there, you know? So that would just be a misuse of, or not misuse, it'd be like just the odds are against you that you're actually going to like learn Torah there, you know? But if you go into any group of Torah people, so let's ask this question here. So what is he emphasizing by saying that he'll squeeze his way into every group of B'nai Torah? So I think what Lauren is saying is good, which is that like he wants to make sure that he doesn't miss out on any aspect of Torah knowledge. So wherever there is a like a Torah culture, he'll see if there's something to gain. I don't know why specifically a group. In other words, he could have easily said like he'll go to any person, and we'll see that some of the Mepharshim are going to say that. So I don't know why he says any place where there are B'nai Torah. I mean, it could be when he says place, it could be that like he'll travel to, to any place that is there. I'm not really sure, you know.
I wonder if it means. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Thank you. I wonder if it means like he'll go to different communities, maybe like if it's plural, like for example, like a Sephardi going to an Ashkenaz community and being like, these are still Torah, even though I'm not used to hearing like whatever, or like two different, like going to Chabad instead of a YBT, whatever it is.
Yeah. So which are out of his way and comfort zone, in hopes that they'll expose him to new Torah. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
No, I was going to say the same idea. Just thinking about, I don't know if Rashi knew about like his contemporaries, like in the Sephardi countries. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Right.
I know that the Rebbeim that lived in France and Germany have very different derech than the
Right.
Rambam and Rambam. So maybe he's referring to that. Like,
Right.
going
Yeah,
through
that's a good
different
I think that's a good application. Yeah. I'm just smiling because the fun fact is okay, let's see who if you know the answer to this. I don't even know if this is the true answer. Which of the famous Rishonim that like is very well learned was the most traveled, that he went to the most communities? Anyone know?
I know the Chafetz Chaim would travel.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about like
No,
early,
older.
like the type of the Rishonim in the Mikros Gedolos, let's say, like, you know.
I'm gonna guess the Barbanel.
Okay, so it's interesting. So he did travel, but that's because he got expelled from Spain. You know, I don't think he went all around. So I'm pretty sure it was the Ibn Ezra. Okay. Ibn Ezra like went to many different places, and there's a fun fact that, you know, the Bali Tosfos were in France, right? Northern France. There is an Ibn Ezra, sorry, there's a Tosfos that quotes the Ibn Ezra, which is just bizarre because Ibn Ezra was Sephardic, and like he went and he traveled there and like and learned with them, and like they quote him, you know. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, part of why he traveled, I think, was because he was poor and he was like trying to like find, you know, a place to like a way to make a living or whatever. But yeah, okay, so that's Rosh. Yeah.
Can I just, so one idea also about why I think that it's interesting that Ben Zoma this first Rashi kind of talks about his personality or what like his life background. And I think it's interesting because if he's younger, and I've said somebody who's younger and somebody who doesn't have smicha would both like I feel like people would respect them less.
Right.
So he would be able to see like who actually like listens, and like I feel like he had a perspective that allowed him to see like who's intelligent because like who's listening to the little guys who are still smart.
Yeah, that's very interesting. By the way, that reminds me, hold on just a second. Gotta do my my you know, traditional book commercial here. So I got this book, Maaseh Rav by Rabbi Mendy Gopin, and so this is the sequel. There was one that was published much earlier. This one is more anecdotes about the Rav that are from the people who lived in Massachusetts with him. And so there's a whole section in here about his intellectual humility and about many examples where he like would learn from people who were like inferior to him. I just want to read two of my favorite ones. So one of them was, so this is from Rabbi Haskell Lookstein, okay, the famous Rabbi Lookstein, in his eulogy. So he says, towards the end of the analysis by the Rav, a student noticed a discrepancy, a conflict between what the Rav was teaching and what we had learned several months earlier. The student gently raised the question by asking, Rebbe, how does this fit with the analysis that we developed some months ago on a similar subject? The Rav's eyes opened widely and he said to the embarrassed student, you are right, I am wrong. Do you hear, students? He is correct and I am incorrect. I'll have to go home and relearn the entire subject and present it again tomorrow. Or another one, I'll just a couple more here. Rabbi Norman Linzer, who was a Talmud from 1955 to 1958, wrote that the Rav was explaining a concept in Yoreh Deah when a student asked an excellent question. He stopped the shiur immediately and said in these words, if you are right, then I did not understand the right shot for the last 20 years. The next week he came in with a different shot. And there's like a bunch of stories like this. Yeah, so anyway, so that's an example of like the, you know, listening to the mere student who does not have smicha, and who's very young, is you know, that's a sign of a real chacham. Yeah.
What's the name of the book again? Sorry.
The book is called Maaseh Harav. I'll just type it in the thing. This is funny because
I tried
Rabbi Uri Pilochowski referenced it on Facebook, and I posted. I looked on Amazon. I said it's only $3, and so I bought it for like $3. And then like later on that day, then a couple other people like went to go buy it, and the price had gone up. And so I guess it was like Amazon's like algorithm saw that people were buying it because I recommended it, and so the prices shot up. So I don't know how much it is now, but it's worth it definitely worth for $3 if you find it for that. Okay, so I actually wanted the next of the Mefarshim I want to do. Of course, I'm not happy that Tamar and Ayala couldn't make it tonight, but there's one perk of the fact that they couldn't make it tonight, which is that I gave a shiur on this Rabbeinu Yona, on this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. I think it was earlier this year, and it might have been last year, but I was kind of worried of if Tamar and Ayala are here for this, then it might feel like repetition for them. I don't think the three of you were at that shiur, because it was a Monday night Mishlei shiur. Maybe you heard it, but we're gonna go over it again. Okay, so I feel like less guilty about it now. Okay, so this is a decently long Rabbeinu Yona, 3 paragraphs, and this is my favorite interpretation of this entire Mishnah. Okay, so he says like this. I'm going to read it in the Hebrew, even though I translated it into English because the Hebrew is good. Amru Chachmei Ha'umos, the non-Jewish sages said, Ki hayodea kol ha'chachma, someone who knows all branches of wisdom, im eno ohev ha'chachma, if he does not love chachma, eno chacham, then he's not a chacham. Ela tipesh hu, but he's a fool. Achar she'eno ohev ha'chachma, since he doesn't love chachma, ki hi hadas, which is the knowledge. But one who loves it and yearns for it, desires it, even though he doesn't know anything, he is called a chacham, because in any event, meaning ultimately, he will acquire chachma, he will attain chachma, because his desire and his will are in it. Okay, so let's pause here. And just get what are the points that Rabbeinu Yona is making?
Like outside of the pasuk.
We're not at the pasuk. In fact, I don't even know if I think he does not explain the pasuk, which is no, he does, yeah.
He makes a distinction between having knowledge and loving knowledge.
Right. So, is anyone associating to a particular English or Greek word that fits the description of Chacham that he is describing here? What do you call a lover of knowledge?
I used to know, but I don't remember.
Okay, so Rabbeinu, so I'm going to say Rabbeinu Yona's conception of Chacham is a philosopher, right? Because philo means love and sophos means knowledge. Okay, so that's what philosopher means in Greek. One of the other Mefarshim actually says that, explicitly in Hebrew. He says that this is talking about a philosopher. Okay, and the idea is that what makes you a chacham, a chacham is more your attitude towards knowledge than what you actually know. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is, according to Rabbeinu Yona, does it matter how much you know or not? What would you say?
No.
So it sounds like he says no, right? Because he says if you know all the branches of Chachma, but you don't love Chachma, then you're not wise. And to the contrary, or the other side, if you don't know anything and you love Chachma, then you are wise. Okay, so that's an argument for saying that your actual knowledge doesn't matter. However, can you make an argument that your actual knowledge does matter?
Well, the hope is that even if you don't know anything, your love of it has to bring you to knowledge eventually. So if you just love knowledge, but you never actually learn anything, you're not a chacham.
Exactly, right. So that's exactly it. So in other words, it's kind of an in-between thing, right? Which is that on the one hand, Rabbeinu Yona is saying that all that matters is your love of knowledge, not what you actually know. On the other hand, he's saying that the reason why we value love of knowledge is because one who loves knowledge will definitely ultimately gain knowledge. Okay, so your actual knowledge knowledge does matter. And what Vanessa said is the nafkamina, right? The nafkamina, meaning the case that illustrates the difference is if you love knowledge but don't learn, you aren't a chacham. Yeah. So in other words, I think this is answering the question of I think this is even though he doesn't say this, I think this is really highlighting why it says which one is a chacham, meaning not what defines you as a chacham. What defines you as a chacham is your knowledge. But if you're looking like at a pool of students, let's say you look at like a bunch of high school students, and you want to say like which one of these is going to become a chacham, then the Mishnah is telling you look for the one who is in love with knowledge. You know, that one is gonna get knowledge. So it's like a diagnosis of you know what they're gonna become.
I work with kids and I see this a lot. It like makes a lot of sense. Like it took me a second. First when I read it, I was like, I don't understand what the Rambam Yona is saying, but we have kids who like they'll technically like not care about school or like they won't like necessarily do well on tests and stuff, but they'll ask me such intelligent questions that like we have no issues with their intelligence. And like we'll have the vice versa. Like we have kids and like they're malnourished, so that's a different component, but like who get straight A's and like are studying constantly, but they clearly don't love it and they don't care to ask questions. They like don't know if you try and have a deeper conversation with them. So
I same thing. I've taught so many straight A students that are not chachamim because they're good grade machines, but they're not chachamim, you know, because they don't love learning, you know. Again, might not be their fault, but they're not in this category. Okay, let's go on in Rambam Yona, unless there's any other points you want to make here. I also think there's kind of like a little irony, not irony, but it's like he's quoting the non-Jewish sages, right? So he's practicing what he's preaching here, right? Is that or he's practicing what Rashi's preaching, that you should learn from, or not really Rashi. No, sorry, I'm getting my Mefarshim mixed up here. Okay, so then he says there's gam yesh ba'ahava zo to'al shniya. There's a second benefit in this love of chachma. Ki ahavaso ha-chachma lo niyasa elamitok yira'aso b'Hashem yisbarach. His love of chachma cannot exist except out of fear of Hashem. This trustworthy lover will desire true chachma. Reishis chachma yiras Hashem. The beginning of chachma is fear of Hashem, or the choicest chachma is yiras Hashem. That's in Tehilim. Nimtes Omer, so consequently, it says, Ki ohev chachma yarei es Hashemhu. Someone who loves chachma will fear Hashem. V'zehu she'amar Shlomo. This is what Shlomo HaMelech means when he says, Im tavakshena kakasef v'chamat monim tachpasena az tavin yiras Hashem v'das elokim timtza. If you search for it like silver and you seek it out like hidden treasures, then you'll understand fear of Hashem and knowledge of God you will find. Rotzalomar im tavakesh hachachma shehi ikar ha'olam. If you desire chachma, which is the root of the world, v'tis avela, and you yearn for it, kamosh atam mavakesh kesef, like you yearn for money, az tavin yiras Hashem, then you'll understand fear of Hashem. Al kol panim tasi chachma ha'amitis. You will definitely get true chachma, shemimena tavin yiras Hashem v'das elokim timsa, and you'll find knowledge of God. Okay, now, when I read this, I was like, okay, he is saying something definitely. It sounds like he's throwing around a lot of just like fear of Hashem terms. So like, what is his main point here? And he introduces it by saying there's a second benefit in this love. So like, what if you had to say like his main point?
Is it that he's saying that chachma leads you to fear of God, to yiras Hashem?
Yeah, I think so. Right? He's saying that like not only will love of chachma, obviously he's saying love of chachma leads you to fear of Hashem. So not only will love of chachma make you a chacham, okay, but it will also bring you to fear of Hashem. Okay, now he's not explaining how, but he seems to be saying that because chachma is the root of the world, then, and because the beginning of chachma is yiras Hashem, or the best chachma is yiras Hashem, which we'd have to see the Rabbeinu Yona on that pasuk, or the pasuk in Mishlei that corresponds to that in order to really get what he means, which we're not going to go into right now. He's basically saying like you're going to get the bonus of also becoming someone who has yiras Hashem through the love of chachma. And so there's just another perk, Yeah. I don't know why Rabbeinu Yona feels the need to mention this here, because I'm sure you can have lots of benefits of like loving Chachma. I don't know why he has to say this here. But yeah.
I wonder if this is his way of, the last quote was from the non-Jewish sages, and I don't think he's trying to say that our job is the same as like the Goyim, where like maybe just the end all be all is Chachma. Like Chachma, for Chachma's sake, doesn't mean anything to a Jew. For a Jew, it has to bring it to Fear Hashem.
Okay, that's actually
love it, Hashem.
That's a great, that whether or not that's the point he's making, that is a great thing that emerges from what he's saying, which is that this is what differentiates the Jewish philosopher from the non-Jewish philosophers. Is like our love of Chachma leads us to fear of Hashem. Yeah, that's a great point.
I just have a question.
Sure.
So it seems to be that Rabbeinu Yona is saying if you have Chachma, then you have Yiras Hashem. So then wouldn't the question be who is a Chacham, one who has fear of Hashem?
Well, not necessarily, right? Because he's saying that what is going to be the determinant that guarantees that you're going to become a Chacham. That's how he was learning the first part. So having Yiras Hashem does not necessarily guarantee that you're going to become a Chacham, but having love of Chachma does guarantee that, and it'll guarantee that you'll become someone who fears Hashem. Does it make sense?
I think so, but then what type of Chachma? Because there are people who are very intelligent, but who do not have Yiras Shamayim.
Right. So let's read the third paragraph of Rabbeinu Yona. I don't remember offhand if he addresses that, and if not, then we'll try to address it. So this is where he explains the pasuk. So he says, "V'alzeh amar Ben Zoma, Eizehu chacham halom mikol adam." This is when Ben Zoma means shekol kach ohev chachma misave elaha sheshol lechol adam. He loves chachma so much that he seeks it from every person. V'af mi she'eno yodea ki im davar echad. Even someone who only knows one thing, yilman mimenu, he'll learn it from him. V'az yatzliach darko v'az yaskil. Then he'll become successful and intelligent. V'alzeh nikra chacham, and that's why he's called a chacham. Shenemar mikol malamdai hiskalti. As it says, from all my teachers, I became intelligent. Amar David, Shkin Amar David, this is what David said. Shalom mikol adam, he learned from every person. V'lo haya omer ze enu yidei kamoni ki mikulam lamad v'hiskel. He didn't say, like Rashi, he didn't say this person doesn't know as much as I do, but rather he learned from everyone. Mashal adam shehifsid kli katan v'halod mikol adam avakish also. I like that mashal. He says, this is like if you lost a small object. Let's say like you lose your car keys, right? Or you lose like a ring or something, right? You're not gonna like say, well, I'm only gonna ask people who are better than me. I'm not gonna ask these inferior people. Like, no, you'll look for who it is doesn't matter. You'll ask for look for from everyone. Yeah. Okay. So we'll get back to Fega's question in a second here. But so what is he saying here? He seems to be he's trying to explain the pasuk, right? So is he answering our questions on the pasuk?
I don't know if this answers it, but it sounds like his approach to the pasuk is that it's saying the Aish thing, that like if you know Aleph, teach Aleph, if you know Bet, teach Bet.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So he does clarify that the people that David was talking about are people who might only know one thing, right?
And like they still have to know one thing. Like he can't be a pure Russia who like literally has no Torah in him to learn, but like any little, I think this expands it beyond just the like Talmid Chacham.
Okay, so the pasuk is talking about people who may only know one thing, but David will still learn from them. So I think the way he's explaining the pasuk is, I think you kind of unlocked it with your question about the Havamina, like where was it here? Oh yeah, here. If the pasuk means he learned from his teachers, that's obvious. What's the Havamina? So I think in other words, you see it saying, I learned from all my teachers. And so the question is, well, yeah, obviously you did. So the Chiddush, the new point is in who he's considering to be his teachers. The fact that he's calling all people his teachers is I think what the pasuk is saying, and that's something that is a Chiddush. Not everyone would call all people his teachers.
I think that's really cool. And it's not just learning from every, like if you're if you're truly considering them a teacher and you're truly at that level of humility, you're going to consider them a teacher because you've learned them. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. The chiddush of right. So the chiddush of the pasuk is that David learned from all people to the point where he considered all of them my teachers, even if he only learned one thing from that person. Yeah. Okay. So now,
So the Gemara talks about how you're able to learn different ideas from animals. So I'm just wondering, like, is that just not included? Like, is that
right?
They're not people, so
right. So I don't think that. I think the Gemara. I think my guess is that Rabbeinu Yona would consider that to be you learning from yourself or like by yourself. That's like bina. That's like deriving new knowledge on your own. The animal is not telling you things. Like you're observing the animal and then inferring, extracting knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the question still remains what Fega asked, which is what type of knowledge are we talking about here? Okay. And Rabbeinu Yona didn't say anything to directly answer that question. The only thing he alluded to was the beginning of knowledge is fear of Hashem. So I actually don't want to go into that right now because I think we'd have to go into that pasuk, and that's a very important pasuk, but that's like a whole study on its own about like what do we mean when we say that fear of Hashem is the beginning of wisdom. So I think let's set that question aside. I have given shiurim on it before, so if you're interested, I could send you those shiurim, but I think we'll leave that question aside for Rabbeinu Yona at least. Okay. I want to go to next one of the Mefarshim who I did not translate because I forgot that I did this over Shabbos. So I'm just going to read it. That this is probably how I would have interpreted it on my own, similar to Rashi, but he quotes a lot of sources. He says like this, and some of this overlaps with Rabbeinu Yona. So this is Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher. Yedua ki hachacham eno nolad chacham. It's known that a chacham is not born wise. Aval hu tzarech limud. He needs learning. V'lo mi malamed echad bilvad. Not only from one teacher, rak mi malamedim harbe, but from many teachers. As Chazal say, lo min hakol zocha adam limod. The person does not merit to learn from everyone. I don't know what that means. The person doesn't merit to learn from everyone. I don't know how that supports what you just said. I mean, I guess it's saying.
Can you say the full sentence again?
Yeah, he says, you don't only learn from one person, but you learn from many people. As Chazal say, a person doesn't merit to learn from everyone. I guess saying he doesn't merit to learn from everyone is implying that learning from everyone would be a good thing, which implies that you should do that, right? Okay. After he learns from his teachers more, Yilmad min haTorah yoser mimash lamim im malamdav. Then he'll learn more from the Torah than what he learned from his teachers. Ki kisha Torah v'ha'edus hi sichaso, because when the Torah and the testimonies are his conversation, yaskil mitocham yoser mimash hiskil mikol malamdav. He will gain intelligence more from them than he did from his teachers. Okay, so I think he's learning this. See, if you look at the psukim in Perek Kufyud Tes, the translations are a little difficult. Let me actually show you in the Hebrew. Kufyud Tes. Mem. I have to tell my joke because I know so few jokes. I feel like I told this in a shiur very recently, so pardon me if I'm repeating this. I heard this from Rabbi Kornfeld, is my shul rabbi in Seattle. So he said some people have. So he says the joke is why is 120 years the maximum lifespan? So he says that there is a minhag that some people have apparently that they say the parak of Tehillim corresponding to their age every day, and he says Kufyu test is so long that by the time you've done that for a whole year, then it kills you. So yeah. Anyway, it is weird to see a parak where like the psukim go up to like what is it 150? What did we just see 150? Why am I not doing this? Yeah, 176 psukim. Yeah. Okay, where are we here? 90. Okay, yeah. So here's the difficulty in the translation here. Ma'ahavti torsecha kol hayom ki hisichasi. How much do I love your Torah? All day long, it's my conversation. Me oivai tach kameni mitzvosecha. So when I first read that, I thought it was saying, from my enemies, your mitzvos have made me wise. Okay, now Art Scroll translated this as, each of your commands has made me wiser than my enemies. So the ambiguity here is the word, the prefix mem in Hebrew can either mean from or it can mean than. So here, at least Art Scroll translates it as T'chakmeni mitzosecha me oivai, that your mitzvos made me more wise than my enemies. Okay, but then here, mikol melamdai hiskalti, from all my teachers I became intelligent. Okay. And then mizakenim as bonan, from elders I became understanding. But it's possible Rabbeinu Bachya is not translating it as from. It sounds like he's saying, after I learned more, this might be, hold on a second, this might be a typo. If you want to check this. When I scanned this today, it duplicated a bunch of words, which I've never seen before. Okay. So the footnote, it is somewhat of a typo. The footnote says it should say harbe. Oops, sorry. Where did that go? Harbe. Yeah. So after I learned a lot from my teachers, Yilmad min haTorah yoser mima shalamam im malamdav, that he learns from the Torah more than he learned with his teachers. Why? Because when the Torah and the testimonies are his conversation, yaskil mitocham yoser mimash hiskil mikom malamdav, he will learn from them more than he learned from all of his teachers. Okay, so in other words, I'm just going to summarize the Rabbeinu Bachya points as we go. Meiri is going to come later. Rabbeinu Bachya. So he's saying here that, hold on, that if you learn from your teachers, learning from your teachers will equip you to be able to mine more from your Torah, okay, than what your teachers taught you, right? So, for example, Rabbi Moskowitz taught me Mishlei, and I learned Mishlei from Rabbi Moskowitz. But because he gave me those tools, I now can learn way more Mishlei than any of the Mishlei that he taught me. So that's like the ideal teacher. Oh, we didn't finish this. Oh, did we finish this? Yeah, we did. Okay, fine. So that's his first point. So does that help us with the pasuk? It's not explaining how he's learning from all people yet, though. All right, so let's go on. So he says now, "V'yadua kikinyan hachachma kikinyan hamamon." This is like a better, in my opinion, better analogy from than the Rabbeinu Yona's version. Rabbeinu Yona give the analogy of, if you lose an object, then you'll ask for it from everyone. Okay, but Rabbeinu Yona goes the money. Rabbeinu Bachya goes the money route. He says, it's known that the acquisition of chachma is like the acquisition of money. If you are a merchant who wants to make profit in money and to fill his bank accounts, you don't care who you make money from. It doesn't matter if he's a revered person or he's a lowlife. You don't care whether this guy is a Jew or a non-Jew. You'll make profit from anyone. Right? So this is advocating, unbridled capitalism. You don't even have to investigate the person who you're getting profit from, no matter who it is. The merchant only has his eyes and heart on the money, on the profit. As long as he's doing it in line with righteousness and justice. So too with chachma. A chacham is a merchant of Torah. Okay, kitov sakra miskar kasef. Its merchandise is better than merchandise of silver. The kivan shu mishtadel letzor otzros chachma. Since he's striving to fill his bank of chachma, Ein lo lahavkin lahavish bein anashim asher yiknei hachachmim mehem. He should not differentiate between people who he gets chachma from. Imhu gadol mimeno b'chachma uvashanim ein lomar mizbayesh ani lilmod chachma ploni. If this person is greater than you in chachma and years, he should not be embarrassed and say, "Oh, I'm not going to learn from chachma from so and so." Shahari hasocher tov inu laharviach hamam mikol adam. Inu laharviach. Feel like there's a typo there. The merchant, a good merchant, will make money from anyone. Okay, so apparently our Gemara doesn't have this. This says you should accept truth even from a magos. I think a magos is like a magi, but it's like a non-Jewish like heathen. You know, the version of this that we're familiar with. Yeah, he says klomer mina umos. Min, I think it's supposed to be min sheb umos, a non-Jewish heretic. The version of this we're familiar with is the Rambam, is kabel hamas misha amro, accept the truth from whoever says it. V'chein hizkir b'pasuk shalamala mizeh me oivai techachmei mitzosecha. Okay, so he's taking me oivai literally, from my enemies I have become wise in your mitzvos. Okay, how so? B'perek Amar Rebbe, in the chapter that called Amar Rebbe, it says Daber ze limdani Antoninus. This is what Antoninus taught me, umikra Messiah, and the pasuk supports him. Okay, anyone know what the whole business with Antoninus is?
Was this Rebbe's friend who like was a Roman, and like they would have Shabbos meals together, and they just like, hang out?
So there, exactly, So there's Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi had some friend in the Roman government named Antoninus. I'm going to do 2 book advertisements today. So someone one of my listeners bought me a book. He said, have you ever made an episode? Oops, sorry, did not mean to cancel my video. He said, have you ever made an episode of the Stoic Jew podcast about who Antoninus was? Because you know who people say Antoninus was? The word on the street is they say it was Marcus Aurelius. Okay. So this person asked me, have you ever made an episode of Stoic Jew podcast on that? And I said, no. So he bought me this book called The Prince and the Emperors, The Life and Times of Rebbe Judah the Prince. And it has a whole section in it about who was Antoninus. And basically the author, Dov Zakheim, goes through and he goes through, you know, here are the 5 emperors who were alive during Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's life. What are the odds that Antoninus was this one, this one, this one, this one? So I'm not going to spoil it. He does conclude, though, that it's not likely that it was Marcus Aurelius. But he says it's possible that it could be like a merger of, you know, historical characters and like fiction, because some of those midrashim that Fega is referencing definitely sound, you know, fictional. But the point is that, like, you know, it seems like Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi had a Roman Chacham friend who he learned with, and sometimes he would bring, he would learn ideas in Torah from him, you know, from his enemy. You know, again, enemy, not that he was actually an enemy on a personal level, but like the enemy nation. Okay, so then he says, so I think the point is fairly straightforward here in terms of the merchant example. I just think it's a better analogy than Rabbeinu Yona's, because it's saying that, like, Rabbeinu Yona is saying, like, you're not going to be ashamed to ask for a lost object from someone, even if they're like inferior to you, which is true. But this is like really saying, you know, if you're making money, you'll want to seize every opportunity to make money. It's like a positive acquisition, you know? So to the Torah, you're not going to care whether it is, as long as it's a legitimate way to make money, you're not going to care who you make money from. You're just going to make money. So too with Chachma, that's what you should do. He goes on. Therefore, someone who recognizes the value of Chachma should strive to acquire it from everyone. And then he gives a controversial example. Elisha ben Avuya, so even Elisha ben Avuya, who was one of the 4 who went into Pardes, he is the one who uprooted the shoots and became corrupted. After his corruption, Rabbi Meir lomed Torah mimeno. Rabbi Meir learned Torah from him. Okay, the Gemara is astonished by him and says, like, how could Rabbi Meir learn Torah from him? Okay, and it's against it. And the answer is Rabbi Meir Hechi Ava Gamir Mipumi de Acher. So it says, how could Rabbi Meir learn from the mouth of Acher? Acher was a heretic. You have that story about Acher was riding on a horse on Shabbos, and Rabbi Meir was walking alongside him learning Torah, and then Acher said, Meir, stop here. This is where the tchum is. So he still cared about his student, but Acher himself violated halacha. So what's the answer? V'amru Rabbi Meir rimon matzah tocho ochal klipaso zarak. Rabbi Meir found a pomegranate. He took the food out of it and he cast off the husk. So I think the Gemara, plain shot of the Gemara there is that only Rabbi Meir could do that. That we shouldn't go learning from people. Oh yeah, it's bringing up this halacha that you should only learn Torah from a Rav who has good midos, and the concerns that you'll be influenced by him for the bad if he has bad midos. And so the Gemara says, what about Rabbi Meir? And the Gemara says, yeah, Rabbi Meir could learn from Acher without being influenced by him, but not everyone could do that. But I think Rabbeinu Bachya is bringing the point here that, aside from the midos issue, we don't say that the chachma of someone is somehow like tainted or inferior because it comes from a bad source. And you should get it from wherever you can get it from, even if it's a heretic. V'hamamar hazem malamdenu shekol hador shas chachma umakir as erka. This teaches us that anyone who seeks chachma and recognizes its value, ein lo livdok achar mishiyel mimeno hachachma. It's a very strong word. He says you should not investigate after the person who you learn from. Ki im achar that's got to be a typo. Oh, so shiyakar. It's not a typo. Since erech hachachma, since he values the chachma, v'zehu she'amar David mikom lamdai hiskati ki idvosecha sigli yivar kasav. So what does the pasuk mean? Ki David haya lamed mikol malam dav maskim him. David learned from all of his teachers and became intelligent through them. This is because the Torah was his conversation. And because of his of its virtue, the Torah's like stature, he treated himself lightly. He didn't try to like make himself honored. And he learned from every person. That's one of the signs of someone who seeks chachma, that he learns from everyone and he does not get embarrassed. Then he'll ascend to the trade of chachma. Ben Zoma Omer, and that's what Ben Zoma says. By the way, this is not Rabbeinu Bachya's commentary on our Mishnah. It was his hakdama to the Perek. So that's why he then goes on to explain the Ben Zoma statement. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, I think this is pshat that you'll learn Torah from chachma from anybody, and he's going so far as to say, like, doesn't matter if the guy's a heathen or a heretic. You shouldn't even check who it is. Just look at the ideas themselves. Yeah. Okay, any questions or comments on this? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Let's do one more, okay? It's possible that we will do a second session on this clause because there's a lot more to say. And one of the topics I actually did want to go into is like, how far do you take this? Like, I do want to do this Gemara with Rabbi Meir, and see like, should you learn from all people? Like, what about nowadays there's like, certain, like we do say that you shouldn't just go into every chachma at any time. You could end up, going off the derech. So like, I didn't know how much I wanted to get into that. Okay, let's tonight just do one more, which is the Meiri. Where's the Meiri? Okay, Meiri says like this. Ben Zoma Omer Eizehu Chacham Lo Mikol, etc. Okay, Klomar Mikol Echad Mimalam Dai Hiskati, meaning from each one of my teachers I became intelligent. V'lamadati, and I learned. V'lamanu shelo yisnahe ka'adam be'inyan limuda b'minas hagaiva usrara. We learn from here that a person should not conduct himself in his learning with a trait of haughtiness and authority. Klomar, as if to say, how can I go to so-and-so to learn? Oh, ma'ani tzarech leploni, achar she'ani lomen mi ploni. Why do I need so-and-so to learn from so-and-so when I'm learning from another so-and-so? Ella yelech lo lifnei kol adam shiur lo shehei matzliach imo b'limuda. Rather, you should go to anyone to learn from who you see will be make you successful in your learning. V'hanagazos, and this conduct tivyehu lidei chachma. This will bring you to chachma. Okay, So then he says, Umash Amar Eizehu Chacham. When he says which one is a Chacham, Al Shem Sofa. That's talking about the end. Which one? Eizehu Magia Lios Chacham. Which one will become a Chacham? The Alpha P Rabosenu Ginu Lemi Shalama Meharbe. So this is another interesting side topic that I might want to go into. Even though the sages disparage someone who learns from many people, okay, so they speak against someone who learns from many people. Kamosha Kasa Shamar Rishon Shal Chulin, like it says in the beginning of Chulin Yud Ches Amud Beis. So it says Man Amra Yosef. Sorry, Man Amra. Who said this? We don't know the need to know the context. It's asking for a source. Yosef Barchia. So then the Gemara says Yosef Barchia Mikuli Alma Gamir. Yosef Barchia he learns from everyone, and saying that as a negative. Shama Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef heard that. Ikpad, and he became angry. Amar, he said, Ani mikuli Alma Gamirna. You're saying I learned from everyone? No, Ana mi Rav Yehuda Gamirna. I learned from Rav Yehuda. So the point, though, the Meiri is making is both sides of this Gemara are treating learning from everyone as something that is negative. So Meiri is saying even though the Gemara speaks badly about someone who learns from lots of people, he says, Efshar shebachachma achas tov shetihye lo kabbalah me'echad muha. It's possible that in a particular branch of Chachma, it's better that a person has a tradition from one expert. Aval bakan, but here in our Mishnah, hakavana shebechol Chachma yishtadel lolomda mehamuvhak sheyimtza. The intent of Ben Zoma is in any area of wisdom, you should strive to learn from the expert that you find. V'im yira b'mi shelamad eze chachma lefanav shelachachma acheres yimtza baki mimenu. If a person sees that for a different branch of wisdom, there's a greater expert than a previous teacher who taught him something else, yelech acharav, he should go after that new teacher. Afilu shlo yihi anush ke'erko, even though he is not of the same quality as the person before him. Okay, now I don't know if you caught it. Does anyone catch I don't know if you want to call it a problem in the Meiri, but definitely way different than the other opinions that we've learned so far. How is he learning our Mishnah?
From what I understand, he's saying something just entirely different. He's not saying like, hey, you should learn from everyone, go place to place. Like, he's saying, no, you should have like a set, not even a set person to learn from someone, but like you should be looking out for the best. It seems to be contrary to the other opinions.
Exactly right. So the problem,
he's saying you should be selective.
Exactly right. So the problem is like the Meiri seems to be learning that halomid mikol adam means you should seek out the best expert in that field and only learn from them until you find another expert. Okay, so the question is, this seems to go against the pshat, against like the straightforward reading of halom mikol adam.
I think if I want to play devil's advocate for the Meiri, which like I don't like this approach, but I think the idea is like you can't just be like, oh, my Rebbe knows everything and like only learn from one person because that's closed-minded. The Meiri is saying no, you have to seek the best chachma. Like you need to go to Rabbi Shnei for Mishlei because he's a Mishlei guy, and like you need to go to so and so for this. Like you need to know where you like the idea has to I think all of the Rishonim are putting the emphasis on the chachma and not the person, and that's the whole point. I think the Meiri is just reaching that point in a different way. With the Meiri saying you need to seek out chachma by finding the very best people, and that'll be different people, and you can't just think it's like that one great person you like, because that's like borders on idolatry or like over glorification or whatever. Yeah. Whereas the other commentators are like, no, you need to learn from literally every little nook and cranny, and they take a different emphasis. But I think the reason why the Meiri is not like just getting this out of nowhere and why it's still based in the pasuk is because he's still focusing on the chachma.
Okay, so I agree with you, and I'm just gonna take the one last step here, which is, or actually, I'll throw the question back at you, which is, like, how would you characterize the difference between, like, in precise terms, like, what is the subject of this Mishnah according to the Meiri, and what's the subject according to the other Rishonim? As Vanessa said, both of them have to do with like not letting your ego get in the way, or not letting like other like blinders get in the way of where you got Chachma from. But I think the Meiri is answering holds that Ben Zoma is answering a different question than what the other Rishonim are holding, or it's a different subject. I don't know how to put it.
I feel like maybe Ben Zoma, maybe the Meiri is focusing on the Chachma itself. Well, no, maybe I'm getting them confused. I feel like one of them is focusing on the Chachma itself, and the other one's focusing on the person.
Yeah,
how the person could become a Chacham.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by that?
Maybe now I'm getting confused. I have to think of it. I thought one of them, because I was thinking about this. Can you go up? I guess the beginning of his.
Yeah. So.
The Meiri. Yeah. There. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he starts off sounding like Rashi, like don't be too prideful to go to so and so.
I think that's what the difference is. I think the other Rishonim are focused more on like the humility of someone and being like, no, you have to learn from every little place. Whereas the Meiri's focus is more on, both of them are focused on Chachma, but I think the Meiri is less focused about your humility and more about breaking your perspective and making sure that your eyes on the ball, which is the Chachma and not who you're learning from. The Meiri doesn't really care who you learn it from. The Meiri really cares about what you're learning, whereas I think the other commentators are more like everyone has someone to offer and that humanity is a little more woven into it.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm gonna give what I think is a superior answer.
Yes,
okay.
Please. I don't feel so confident. I'm just trying to get at it.
So I'm not disagreeing with the content of what you're saying, but here's what I think it is the other Rishonim learn that Ben Zoma is telling you how to get Chachma. Okay, but the Meiri is telling you how to select a teacher. Okay, in other words, looking at Rabbeinu Bekius' analogy, he was saying you want to make profit, so make profit from anyone that you can, right? Get some from this guy, some from that guy, some from that guy, But the Meiri is saying, if you need to get a mentor for yourself, right? A mentor in any area of Chachma. So we say that you really should stick to one person, and it should be the best person. Within that, you shouldn't let ego get in the way, and you should be willing to drop this person if you find that there's another person who's better at a different thing. But he's saying, when you're selecting a teacher, then you should be willing to learn. In other words, you should be willing to make anybody your teacher. But the mission is about who to select as your teacher. The other Rishonim are talking about how you get just Chachma in general, like individual ideas. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I'm burning out a bit, but that's
All
why
right,
I'm
okay,
not responding super well.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We're gonna end soon.
I need a.
So I'm just gonna type that out. The Meiri is saying, that when selecting a teacher / mentor, you should be willing to learn from every man, but you shouldn't try to make every person into your teacher or mentor. Okay, in other words, this is about who you are establishing as your teacher, and whereas the other Rishonim are not talking about a teacher-student relationship. They're just saying whenever you're getting Chachma, just get it from whoever.
I guess my question then is how can we say that that's the interpretation? I don't think the pasuk says one who learns from every person, not many people.
The Mishnah?
The Mishnah, sorry, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Mishnah says a wise person is someone who learns from every person. I don't understand how the Meiri is talking about every person. I understand we're saying many people, but not every person.
Right. So I
think that's what I'm missing with the Meiri.
Right. So I think what he's saying is that Ben Zoma was answering the question, in other words, who should let me think how I would put it. Yeah, that's a little difficult. But what I'm trying to say is he's trying to say I'll give you an example, right? Let's say, for example, someone is looking for a teacher, okay, in Torah, right? And let's say they have a specific criterion in mind that, in order to be my teacher, the person needs to have smicha, or the person needs to be a man, or the person needs to have a beard, or the person needs to have finished shas. And Meiri is saying, no, none of those criteria matter when it comes to choosing a teacher. anybody could be your teacher, but you should choose the best person possible.
Okay.
So that's when
So
he's like
he's learning from anybody.
from
I guess.
anybody, right?
Fine. Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Okay, good. I want to stop in a second, but I want to show you one thing, and I'm specifically going to show you just an excerpt from this. Sforno, as usual, learns the entire Mishnah in one flowing thing, but I just want to show you just how he learns the Ben Zoma local part here. Okay, so he says this again, and I haven't seen anyone else who says this. He says, "Amar Ben Zoma she'oso chacham asher bodi bar navi hu hachacham b'medinios." This wise man. So he ties it to my favorite psukim in Yirmiyahu, so that's why he's talking about the prophet. But he says it's a person who's wise in Medinos, in the ways of the world, meaning like decision making, interacting with people. Asher rov inyanam miyusat al hanisayon, that the majority of this type of wisdom is rooted in experience. V'zeh lo yusag ela kashil mikol adam. This can only be attained if you learn from all people, leman yaleb yadu nisyonos rabim, so that you accumulate lots of experience. So this is what like Mortimer Adler has this phrase that he calls he says one of the reasons why you should read is to get vicarious experience. You know, you are limited in terms of your lifespan and in terms of what you do, and you're limited to your own experience. But if you hear from other people, you can gain from their experiences. So I think it's interesting that Ben Zoma, according to Sforno, is not talking at all about like Torah wisdom or book smarts. He's talking about like life knowledge, like wisdom, you know, and for that, the more people you talk to, the more you're going to get this kind of wisdom. So this is like to me, the paradigm of this is like the Humans of New York guy, Brandon Stanton, you know, like he just talks to all people and just learns from everyone. Or Tim Ferriss, you know, he's interviewing all of the greatest people in all of their fields and just learning whatever he can about how to become good at what you do, you know. So that's like the type of like Chachma Sforno holds this is talking about. Yeah, Lauren.
Yeah, I feel like this Mishnah brings up a lot of interesting discussions about, like you were talking about the wisdom thing. I'm thinking about like that. I don't know if she still makes those Daf Yomi TikToks. I forgot what her name was.
Miriam,
I think. Yeah. And there was a big, like, I guess you'd call it a debate between David Bashevkin and Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg about if you can learn Torah from her, like someone like her, and what's considered Torah or not.
Right.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion. And I guess also about thinking about like who you learn from, or also like the different Darchei Limud, because I'm thinking about like this actually is also relevant with Rabbi Goldberg, and he had another like disagreement with Rabbi Aryeh Leibowitz, because Rabbi Leibowitz thinks like you should have your Rebbe and your Darch Limud and like stick to that, and Rabbi Goldberg is very into like learning from everybody, and he'll quote Chassidus and he'll quote the Rav, and sometimes it feels a little off to me, but then maybe there is a nice idea of learning from everybody, so it's kind of balancing those two things. You want to perfect yourself in one way, but then when do you know to branch out and stuff like that.
Right. So that's actually a topic that I would like to take up maybe next week, which is there are a bunch of contrary sources within Chazal about whether it's better to have one Rebbe or to learn from many people. And the Meiri did talk about that in quoting that Gemara. And so I kind of want to talk about that, especially because for me, I mean, I'm coming from a very, my inclination is much more eclectic, like learning from everyone and reading lots and lots of stuff, and I fall out more on that side. So I think that'd be interesting to do. And I also really am curious about that question about learning from Rabbi Meir, which relates to the TikTok thing you mentioned. Like there is a halacha that you shouldn't learn from someone who, has bad midos, but what is the nature of that halacha? Like, is it, like I said before, like you're going to be influenced by their actions? Is it that the knowledge itself becomes tainted somehow? So I'd like to explore those two issues. So let's plan to come back to this first clause of this Mishnah next week, and we'll try to do that and maybe do something more Mefarshim, and then we'll take a 2-week break before we come back to the next part of the Mishnah. So quick summary here: Rashi said that this is about overcoming your ego and putting yourself into groups for B'nai Torah, so that you can get like different ways of thinking that you hadn't had before. Rabinu Yona says that the most important quality for becoming a Chacham is love of Chachma, and that's also going to net you Yiras Hashem. And what else did he say? Oh, and that David considered anyone to be his Rebbe, his teacher, even if he only taught him one thing. Ben Bachia went the strongest on saying that, like, you should just view this as like making money. Doesn't matter who you make it from, and you don't even have to check them out as long as you're doing, as long as it's honest money, right? As long as it's good chachma. And then the Meiri is saying that this is talking about selecting a teacher. You shouldn't have these picky criteria for who becomes your teacher, as long as the only thing that matters is how good they are on their subject, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. Jam-packed Mishnah here. So this is good. We learned a lot, even though there were only 3 of us. And Feiga, it's very nice having you back. I missed having you in Chira. So
it's really nice to be back. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm now that I have a longer vacation, I'll be coming much more frequently. So
I
I'm
hope so.
excited.
Yeah. Sorry, we're gonna have a break in a little while, but we'll get in some sessions as many as we can. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good, happy last day of Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Thank
Hanukkah
you.
Sameach.
Yeah.
You too.
All right. Bye.